your memory got a little bit scrambled.
Doctor Who's latest season finale, The Reality War, saw the departure of Ncuti Gatwa's 15th Doctor, and the arrival of who we presume to be, check out my video discussing whether she is the Doctor or not, but the return of Billie Piper to the Doctor Who franchise. But it's quite evident, let's be honest, that this wasn't always the plan. And I find it slightly strange that Doctor Who Unleashed and the behind-the-scenes show on YouTube have sort of not acknowledged at all that there were major reshoots done for this episode. There were 2 endings shot. One ending where Ncuti didn't regenerate and was going to carry on for a season 3, and the ending that we got. So this video is going to be breaking down what on earth happened in the original ending. We've got a leaked photo, we've got some set reports, and we've apparently got a leak synopsis of what originally happened at the end of this episode. Hopefully one day this unreleased end to the episode gets released on a Blu-ray or special features or something. It would just be cool to see a what-if scenario. They did a similar thing back in season 1, or series 1 with Christopher Eccleston in 2005. Originally, the Doctor didn't regenerate at the end of Parting of the Ways, and rather than the TARDIS scene where Eccleston does change into Tennant, we were going to see that the Doctor's actually scanning Rose's body, and Rose is slowly dying. Hence why the first place he takes her is New Earth, to a hospital, because he wants to see if he can save Rose's life. That was the original ending to Series 1, but obviously Eccleston, in a similar vein to Ncuti, ended up leaving the show, so there were rewrites and reshoots. Hopefully, one day we'll see both endings. But yeah, let's break this all down. As I say, it is without doubt that Ncuti Gatwa was originally wanting and planning to stay longer. He said he's not leaving the franchise till he's met a Dalek. Him and Russell said that he hopes to stay on for many years to come, even as late as October 2024. Ncuti said season 3 is going to start being filmed late that year or early next year, which obviously didn't happen. Now, I think we can assume logically the reason for this not happening is because Disney didn't immediately recommission Doctor Who. When Russell came back, he basically promised yearly seasons of Doctor Who plus spin-offs. That's what this whole Whoniverse thing was. But for a multitude of reasons, viewing figures, etc., that hasn't quite panned out in the way they hoped, which is a real shame because I've had fun with this era. I can't, even the latest episode, people, I've been on Twitter again, I need to stop going on Twitter, but they're so negative. And I do understand there are a lot of genuine complaints, and you're entitled to dislike an episode, that's fine, as long as you keep it to genuine critique and not just berating and being horrible and nasty to the showrunners or the people that make the show, because the amount of effort that goes into making Doctor Who, I think it's why Unleashed should be seen by more people, quite frankly. The amount of effort, and people comparing it to oh, it's just slop, it's just what... No, it's not. There is a very hard-working, dedicated team making this show. Be respectful. You don't have to like the episode. I didn't particularly enjoy The Empire of Death last year, and I voiced my concerns. I didn't, however, say, sack Russell T Davies, sack Julie Gardner, sack Jane Tranter, etc. But yeah, you know what I'm talking about. We'll get back to the video. What's the original ending? I'll stop waffling. What's probably happened here is that because Disney were taking too long to commission, Ncuti Gatwa he's a very high profile actor. He's very high in demand. I reckon the original plan was to have 4 seasons, so they shot seasons 1 and 2 basically back to back. I reckon they were going to do that again. He was going to have 4 seasons. Murray Gold was going to leave with him. Russell may leave or may look for a successor. I don't think he'd made up his mind, but I think he knew that it was a 4-season run for Ncuti. I think that was the plan. But obviously, when Disney don't recommission, Ncuti is left in limbo, and understandably, no hate to Ncuti, I don't want anyone to take away from this that Russell or Ncuti are bad people, but I reckon Ncuti thought, okay, I need to make my big break, I need to go and do some theatre, I need to go and do this, I can't just be waiting around for if Doctor Who gets commissioned. As of filming this video, there is no recommission. We don't know what the future of Doctor Who looks like. It's almost 100% certain that the BBC will continue it in some form, with or without Disney, but we are just going to have to wait and see. And I think maybe Ncuti and his agent didn't want to do that. They just, he's getting on with his career. But as I say, there were big reshoots in February of this year, which I think added an additional 15 minutes to the original episode. Now, if you want to go back and rewatch The Reality War, stop at the roughly 40-minute mark, and you will notice that's where the episode shifts. That's where the episode changes. I think the episode was originally going to be 45 minutes long. So what they've done is shaved off the original 5 minutes and added an extra 15, 16 minutes of scenes. So what you'll notice as well, I think they only did reshoots on the TARDIS set, that back garden / house for Belinda, and a little bit or the full Unit Ops HQ scene, because they only use those 3 sets for those final 15 minutes. The episode would have played as normal till roughly the 40-minute mark. The first scene I think is a reshoot is when the Doctor, Belinda and Ruby are in the TARDIS and Poppy's coat is shrinking. That's my guess. It might be slightly later on, but I have a feeling that in the original draft of the script, Poppy didn't disappear. I reckon she was just a wish that was kept, and Poppy was going to stay within the story. I don't think the Doctor had to sacrifice himself to save Poppy, but perhaps that could be wrong, because I don't know whether they'd have the time or budget to shoot that entire Unit Ops room with all those people. Maybe they just shot additional material there. But we've got to remember that Susan was supposed to tie into all this. I'm wondering whether the original ending, I mean, we're going to read a leak in a second which ties in with Susan, but the original ending was that Poppy was given to Susan to look after, or Susan was some sort of memory of Poppy and that's why she kept cropping up. I'm trying to think as well of something else that they could have sacrificed. Let's say Poppy does disappear, because that very well could have happened. What would the sacrifice be to bring her back? Like, can you think of anything in the comments? There's nothing that immediately springs to mind for me. Because I think as well, the original plan was to have Ruby and Belinda go off with the 15th Doctor. They were all going to go travelling as a 3 TARDIS team trio at the end, because the publicity and the announcements were sort of like, oh yeah, the Belinda, the Doctor and Ruby are, what a trio, like the new TARDIS trio, but they weren't really that, and I think now that Ncuti's left, they never will be. Maybe the original emotional beat of this episode was that the Doctor had to sacrifice having Poppy as his child, so that's why she becomes human at the end, something along those lines. But let's take a read of this leak, because it correlates with the leaked picture that we've seen, so I do think it's accurate. I don't think there's any doubt whether or not this is true. The picture basically confirms it. The original ending of Doctor Who Season 2 before the reshoots was the Doctor, Ruby, Belinda, etc. are all having a big party, similar to like Amy and Rory's wedding, where everyone's dancing and the Vlinks is a DJ. I mean, it would be nice for the Vlinks to finally do something. I mean, he just sits there, but Susan is seen watching over them from afar, which would have been a cliffhanger leading into Season 3. So I wonder whether in the original ending everybody forgets Poppy, maybe including Ruby, or maybe Ruby's the only one who remembers her, and at the end Susan shows up with Poppy, because obviously Susan is the Doctor's granddaughter. Poppy could be her mum or something timey-wimey like that. Susan is seen at the end watching over the party, holding on to baby Poppy. Like, I reckon that could have been the original direction this was taking. And obviously it seems like the 13th Doctor's inclusion, like that, it's a lovely scene, and I do think with the cards they've been dealt, they did deliver a banger of an episode, but there's no way the 13th Doctor scene was originally in the episode, or Joy, or any of that stuff. Now there is also one big missing part of Belinda's dad. We know for a fact that an actor was cast to play Harry Chandra, but he never showed up. I reckon he'd probably have been there at this party at the end, and he'd have probably been singing. The amount of times in this series they referenced oh, you'll make my dad sing, you'll make my dad sing, all of that. Like, there's 100% he was going to be singing at the party or something. Or maybe there was a reveal planned. I did think he was going to be like a god or part of the pantheon or something, because they say like, oh, he'd laugh, my dad will laugh, the giggle, all of that. But yeah, this guy got completely cut. I mean, according to Doctor Who set reports over on Twitter, who was at a lot of the filming, originally he was also in episode 1 as well. Apparently there's a whole sort of cut sequence of seeing Belinda's family in episode 1 before the Robot Revolution kicks off, but they cut it for pacing reasons. So he was going to be in episode 1 and the finale, and the poor actor's just been entirely cut. But yeah, it's certainly weird. And I really want to know what the original sacrifice to bring Poppy back into the universe was. Like, how did that all play out? Did that even play out? Or, as I say, if you watch at the 40-minute mark, Poppy might have just survived, because you get that really triumphant moment where she steps out the vault and Poppy's survived. So perhaps she was originally supposed to survive and she'd have been at this party. Or, as I say, maybe everyone forgets, but Susan remembers, and Susan has her leading into season 3. But obviously that's all been wrapped up now to say goodbye to Ncuti Gatwa's Doctor. Susan's got to come back in the future of the show. It's such a bizarre time for Doctor Who. We don't know where it's headed. It hasn't been recommissioned. We're just going to have to wait and see. Maybe we'll get news on that in the extra special episode of Unleashed that's releasing in a week on Saturday. A week on the Saturday just gone. You know what I mean. Hope you did enjoy this video. Thank you for watching. Please do feel free to subscribe, like, comment, share. Stay tuned for the podcast. It's going to be a banger of a podcast. It's going to be an interesting one. But yeah, thank you all very much for watching. I hope you did enjoy, and goodbye.
Don't forget to click below and subscribe to the official Confused Adipose YouTube channel.
I will destroy you!
She's not seen a single episode.
No, I've watched your episodes.
Keep these sonic screwdrivers.
What else am I saying about the film? Don't watch this one.